is that we start with the most important, most pressing, possibly the toughest job that we have to do in the day, and then the rest of the day can flow from that feeling of accomplishment. Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Should I Read That? I'm John, this is episode 12. Today is the book Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, which comes from a metaphor that means if you have to eat a live frog, why don't you do it first thing in the morning? Because nothing else that comes in the rest of your day is going to be as bad as that. That's where the title of the book comes from, and it's all about overcoming procrastination and being more effective with the time that you do have. So I'd like to point out three things and bring up a quick example for most of them, and then we'll just move right on. The first thing I want to point out from this book is something that we call the Pareto Principle. The Pareto Principle, it's the 80-20 rule. It says that 80% of your results come from the 20% of the effort, the most effective portion of your effort. So as an example of that, last week when we did the fifth discipline, which is a 350-page book, I didn't have enough time. We were planning a 500-person event, which is actually on Monday, so just in 3 days, and I only had time to get through the abridged copy of the fifth discipline last week. But I would say I got more than 80% of the information from the book in the abridged version, even though it took drastically less amount of time. So you got to look for those opportunities that you can find where you can use your 20% to get the 80% of the results. It saves you time. It allows you to be more effective in the time that you do have. The second thing in this book actually comes on page 71. It's only about 120 pages, guys. It's putting the pressure on yourself, being able to keep yourself on task. And there's a quote from Thomas Edison here who says, "The first requisite for success is to apply your physical and mental energies to one program incessantly without growing weary." Later on that page, it says only about 2% of people can actually work diligently and effectively without direct supervision or supervision at all. And we call those people leaders. It says it right in the book. We call those people leaders when they can work effectively without supervision because we're able to put the pressure on ourselves. By watching this, you're taking the initiative to better yourself in hopefully, or at least you clicked on the video to find out what I was talking about, eating frogs. Anyway, but I'd encourage you to look for the opportunities that you can to keep the pressure on yourself to perform because it's the right thing to do, not because someone else tells you what to do. So as a subpoint to that, I'd like to point out the phrase, a bias toward action, becoming an action-oriented individual. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you'll recognize that phrase as one that came up in the autobiography of Sam Walton that I did the video on 2 weeks ago. Now, Sam Walton was a man who had an extreme bias towards action, and it took him from a young man growing up in the Depression with almost nothing to the wealthiest man in America only about 50 years later. Now, most of us, we're not going to end up as the wealthiest person in our country. However, being someone who's action-oriented raises you immediately to the top of most any pool of people. The third point that I want to bring out from this book is, again, going right back to the frog analogy, or the frog metaphor. If you have to eat a frog, and you have more than one frog, eat the ugliest one first. Why do I say that? Again, if you have to eat 2 frogs, you eat the uglier one first, at least you know the other one isn't going to be so bad. The application of that is that we start with the most important, most pressing, possibly the toughest job that we have to do in the day, and then the rest of the day can flow from that feeling of accomplishment. I don't know about you, but I've had many mornings when it comes to 11:30 and I realize, boy, I really didn't get a whole lot done so far. I better get rolling. And I have to go work on the thing that's most important at the day at that point, rather than if I had started at 9 or 8 o'clock in the morning, I would have been on to 2 or 3 more things that actually would have made a difference. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate the attention. I'll link on all the social medias below that I'm active on, and we will continue the conversation in the blog this week. Page 92 of the book actually outlines all of the habits that we need to build, and I'll break that down in the blog post. Catch you guys later for episode 13.